Donna Carter, pianist, composer. I just finished playing in Bryant Park for the week. So we came from New York straight here and made it with the traffic and got here in time, so I'm happy.
President of the Asbury Park African American Music Project. We call ourselves AP AMP, and we've been working on this project for a few years. At the end of 2018, we were able to form a nonprofit, and we're working to share the stories of Springwood Avenue across generations and make sure that it's central to the story of Asbury Park.
And what were your impressions about today's event?
I am so grateful for tonight to be able to hear this music in this amazing space and see how many people came out and feel so passionate about the history of Springwood Avenue. It made my heart warm.
My name is Melissa Keeling, and I'm honored to serve on the board of directors for AP AMP, Asbury Park African American Music Project. And tonight was our launch event, and I was just blown away by the turnout. We had no idea how many people to expect for this. We were hoping at least 10 would show up, and it was totally packed. So this is very exciting for the start of our project. I can't wait to see what we do next.
Okay, thank you. Go.
Hi, my name is Tina Caracas. I work for Danny Clinch at the Danny Clinch Transparent Gallery in Asbury Park. Tonight we had the Asbury Park African American Music Project launched today, and we killed it. It was amazing. It was beautiful. It was people from all over the community and people from all over New Jersey came to see this event, and when you walked into the room, you felt the love and the magic and the energy of people and the musicians on the stage, and just you felt like you were walking through a time zone almost. Like it was a jazz club from like back in the day, maybe on Springwood Avenue. Please, seriously, we need to know about this. Let's do this again. It was a beautiful night. Thank you.
You look like you got emotional.
I've cried a couple times tonight. It's too much. It's a lot. It's a lot of energy for me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to say one thing. Almost 2 years ago, we started this journey, and it was just going to be a very small project. It had an end date, and that was going to be it. And as we started to interview musicians, they'd say, oh, you need to talk to this person, and you need to talk to that person. And we started reaching out. And then we were looking around, and we went to a conference at the National Preservation Trust, and we said, oh my God, we have to start to preserve this history, because it's an important history. It's a history that if we don't do it, it might be lost. And so we have taken the charge, and this team has worked diligently over the last 2 years. So with all the other thanks that I want to give to our supporters, our partners, and all the people who work behind the scenes, thank you to them, but thank you to the team of Jen Souter, Charles Trott, Kathleen Melger, and Melissa Keeling, because these people have worked Yes, stay tuned, because we're also trying to save the Turf Club, which is the last music venue on Springwood Avenue. The building still stands, has not been used for close to 50 years. So this is not something we can do by ourselves. We need help, but Thank you all for coming out, and stay tuned. The best is yet to come.
I'm Jennifer Souter. I'm the board president of Asbury Park African American Music Project.
I'm Yvonne Clayton, and I'm the treasurer of the organization that's also called AP AMP.
Who came up with the crazy idea of refurbishing the turf, and why?
I think it was something that happened simultaneously.
Oh, because y'all have known each other for a while?
No, because we went to a conference, because we've been working on documenting the history of Asbury Park, Springwood Avenue, at the Westside. We've been doing this, and we went, and our work was starting to get some recognition, and we were invited to present at the national conference called Pass Forward. It was held in California, and the National
Trust for Historic Preservation.
Trust for Historic Preservation. And we gave a presentation, and in that presentation was the picture of the outside of the turf club, and we talked about that was the last remaining music venue. And the first question that was asked when we said, "Are there any questions?" is, "What are you doing to preserve that building?"
When I moved to Asbury Park 2009, I'm a landscape architect by training on the work side, and a lot of my adult life has been looking at the landscapes of African American communities and the history of African American communities. And when I moved to Asbury Park, I knew of there being this rich history and music on the west side, and I wanted to find out more. So I was kind of digging around, just talking to people and trying to find out more on my own, and I found it hard to find. So I could learn a lot from just talking to people, but when I would try to look something up in books, or in articles about what Springwood Avenue was like, I wasn't finding sort of a go-to place to do that. And so in 2017, there was this conference called Creative Asbury Park, and people all came together for 2 days and talked about things of interest or issues or things in Asbury Park. And if you raised an issue, then you owned that issue for 2 days and had to sort of facilitate the discussions about it. And I raised some issues about African American history not being highlighted in the resources that I found, which doesn't mean they didn't exist, it's just that I had a hard time finding them. And so we had a lot of great conversations. A lot of people brought up a lot of big issues, interesting issues. But after that, it kind of became this, how can this history of Springwood Avenue become more central to the story so that people aren't digging around, that it's kind of something that, it's not a side story, it's not a one line in a book, but it's central to how this city develops, African American history. And so I just started talking about how could we do oral histories, how could we kind of focus in on music, and I was immediately, people said, you gotta talk to Yvonne, you gotta talk to Yvonne. Yvonne says, I'm in, let's do something, let's make this happen. But it was just us, it was people talking, it wasn't an organization, we had no money, it was really just people that had an interest in highlighting the stories of Springwood Avenue and the west side of Asbury Park, coming from different backgrounds and interests.
You know, it's interesting. We got an invitation to go to, it was called like Creative Asbury.
Who was we? The library?
The library, yeah.
Oh,
and
okay.
it was a call for like different community members, leaders, organizations to just come for a couple days and to talk about what makes Asbury, like what's so great about it. And the library got this, it was from the Geraldine Dodge Foundation, I think.
Okay.
And it kind of was set up in a way where you just had like these different groups that got together and wanted to have different discussions about, you know, the waterfront, about development. And one thing that came up was about like cultural history and how there's all this music history by the waterfront, but there's nothing on Asbury. And
Oh, you mean on the west side?
on the west side, yeah, yes, I'm sorry, on the west side.
Thank you. You called the west side Asbury. That's
Yeah,
right. The heart and
because
soul.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
You know, and the director and I at the time, and actually Jennifer Souter, who was one of our trustees, is still one of our trustees, got kind of involved in this conversation about cultural history and Springwood, and then people were talking about like the music history. And I've worked here for a long time, and I've worked on different like history projects here, just doing research on like the air shows that were back in 1910. And I really did, all I had heard about Springwood Avenue was about the riots. And growing up here, I never heard anything else about the West Side except for the riots. So I kind of got intrigued by just like, what is this music history and what's going on? And the conversation just evolved, and it actually lasted for almost a whole like sessions. So they had, I think, like 3 sessions. I forget how they broke it out, but each day you were going to come up and talk about something new, but we stayed in that group.
And that was who? You and
the director, Robert Stewart, and I, and Jennifer stayed in this, and I forget who else was involved in that discussion, but the director at the time saw opportunity to apply for a grant on starting up like oral histories. And so we worked with Jennifer, and it started off as an oral history project here at the library that was funded by the New Jersey Historical Commission. And it just grew. I mean, you just start hearing all these like great stories, and we started documenting, you know, recording, you know, these conversations, and you're just like amazed by all that history that is just lost.
Well, not anymore.
Not anymore.
Yeah. So how did you meet Jennifer? You say she was
she's one of our board of trustees.
Okay.
So the library has a governing body of 9 board members that are appointed by the mayor, and 2 are, one is from the superintendent representative, and one is the mayor's representative. But then the rest are normally like Asbury residents that help run the library. They oversee, you know, and so we meet monthly, and they kind of go over like strategic planning and stuff. So Jennifer, she had been on our board for a while now, and had been interested in, you know, just different history projects that the library's worked on. So this was kind of how we were able to get started with that.
Okay. So you didn't actually see it heading in the direction that it actually went. You just started off doing interviews.
It was just interviews. Yeah, just to document it, and for us it was documenting, but also it being accessible. So having it here at the library, for me, I felt it was so important because, you know, kids, everybody has access to all kinds of information online, right on your phone. But there was nothing. There was nothing about Springwood. And it's like, how do we give people that access? Like, so the library, of course, it's free. You could just come in and, you know, and it just started to grow and grow and grow. And now it became its own, you know, we're our own organization looking to save the Turf Club.
At the time, we knew we probably needed some funding, but we couldn't write a grant when we didn't have an organization. So the library jumped right in and said, well, you can write it and we'll put it through from the library. The library will be a partner. And that helped legitimize, allowing us to be able to get some funding. And so right off the bat from the beginning, Kathleen Melger from the library was part of it. And we had 2 people come on in that first year and actually work with us as researchers. One was Mr. Charles Trott, and then the other is Melissa Keeling, who lived in Asbury Park at the time and is a musician. And so that little core, we just started digging in and saying, how can we make this happen? How can we make this grow?
It was a project that was a joint project by the Asbury Park Historical Society and the Asbury Park Library. They were looking to tell the history of the Westside of Asbury's musical culture and social culture as well. You can't have social society without music and music without society. So, that's what it was about. And they were looking for people to research the information that surrounded that history. And I, being a lifelong member of Asbury Park, going through the school system and lived here off and on all my life, as well as starting to do the DIA presentations in the library at that time, and running into, of course, Kathleen, as well as later on Jennifer Souter. Melissa and myself, she was another one who's founding member, did the research for the musicians as well as the overall culture, spanning from the 30s here on the west side of Asbury forward to the contemporary times. That's how I got on board.
I had known Jennifer maybe a year or so, and she came to me and said, there's this project and we have some money, and what can we, and we just started brainstorming and saying, well, we could talk to this person, we could talk to that person, let's call this, and we started interviewing, and I went up to the senior center and I started talking to the seniors, and they're a wealth of information. They were like, oh, well, Chet's was there, and this was there, and this was, and then we used to do this, and it's like, and enthusiastic about sharing. I mean, it was exciting listening to them talking to each other and saying, do you remember? And then we went to a fundraiser for Gladstone Trot. At the BFW, and there were all these musicians that were still around who we had no clue. And it's like, oh my God. So that was another piece of it, just being exposed to all these musicians, and musicians like Clifford Johnson, who is like 96 now but was still playing at the time, and this is not that long ago. And it just, AP Amp kind of grew from there. We were trying to figure out what we were going to call ourselves.
So it started off with a general wanting to know about Springwood Avenue on the west side, and then kind of focused in on the musical.
Yes, but we kind of honed in on the music in the beginning as a way into African American history, meaning there's Asbury Park history as music's such a big part of the town. We knew that it would interest a lot of people and also allow us to kind of focus.
How does it feel to return back to the turf?
It feels great. I miss the place. It feels great though.
Okay.
I'm happy to be here.
Okay, I think you were telling me earlier that you haven't been back here in like 50 years?
It's been about 50 years. Almost 50, I hate to give away my age, but yeah, it's been over 50
you look like
years.
a young man about 50 or so.
Yeah, so it's been a long time, yeah. So I was, back in the day I was playing with Charles and Dave back then, and we used to do a lot of stuff here. And I came here with a couple of my old groups. So it's great to be back, even though the building. And I'm telling you, the African American Music Project, they're doing a fantastic job here. Fantastic, and I hope that they can finish what they're trying to do. Bring a music center on the west side. You need that. We need that very, very much. especially for the younger generation.
Yes, sir. You grew up around here?
I grew up in Neptune. Yeah, I grew up around here. I used to have to walk up here to go to school. When I was living in Neptune, I had to go to school, and I also worked for Paramount Paint for a while. So, like, you know, we used to have a good time down here. Yeah, man. This was 42nd Street to us. So, yeah, we had a great time.
Yeah, so we thank you for your return, and we honor you for coming back to a place that's trying to get better.
Right,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
And so we thank you for this.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Bill Carter.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. Hopefully everybody have a good time. Okay.
It was a little seed, and it started to grow.
You went that next step, and you purchased a building.
Well, that's because at this conference, we were asked, what are you doing to preserve this history? And we looked at each other and said, we've got to come back. We've got to see what we can do about preserving that building. And we were fortunate. We found out who owned it, and we went to him and we sat down and talked to him about what we wanted to do, what we saw, what was our vision for this building, and that we'd like to purchase it from him. And at the time, we didn't have a dime. We didn't have any money. We didn't know where we could possibly, but he believed in us. And he said we could purchase a building from him. And even though others came after us, and even before us, he said no, he lived up to his word. And
very patient.
And very patient, because that was back in
2018.
This is 2022, and we were able to purchase it on January 3rd, 2022.
You signed that statement.
We signed it.
We did. In the COVID, we had masks on. We made it happen.
I mean, we still have somewhat of a mortgage, but nothing like what it could have been if someone else had owned it. And there were others that wanted to demolish this building. And so we saved it.
Yeah, we said it became, it's a symbol. It's a symbol, right? And it's not as if we weren't, prior to 2018, we knew that the Turf Club was an important spot, but we just didn't, we knew that it was privately owned, and we didn't really see a route. And the kind of like an ironic thing is that in between there, somewhere around that same era, a few years ago, Yvonne came down and sat in a panel with me in Atlantic City about a St. Cultural Heritage, Springwood Avenue, and out of that, the Cultural Landscape Foundation wrote an article. It was a really great, well-written article about the intangible history of Springwood Avenue. And that's what we actually did another session about, I think it was called Intangible History. Yeah. And so the thing is, we kind of started thinking about the intangible history because there's so little physical landscape left of Springwood Avenue. But then it became like, wait a minute, there is this actual piece that people can come in and feel it. And we know, I mean, kind of the magic feeling in this space because of these four walls, because it's still here, and you can't replicate it.
And we had never been inside the building.
That's crazy. So now that we're in it,
here we are.
What do you think about the roof?
We love it.
A lot of people love this roof, yeah.
We love it as it is, and we wish that we had the funding to maintain that open quality, the air, the light. The downside is we all sweat every week in the summer, worried about whether it's going to rain or not.
Right.
So that's the elements are against us in that one bit of.
Yeah. Plus, we'd like to be able to do some things in the building, like have an evening performance, which is hard to do if you don't have lights.
Asbury Audio, we could not, there's no way we could have done this without Asbury
This
Audio.
would not have happened in the way it did
Yeah, it could have
without Asbury
happened,
Audio.
but it would not have had the quality. I mean, the music, every musician that's come through here is just, first of all, most people don't expect that they're going to have that level when they walk in, because we tell everybody. I mean, if they didn't know that we're the conditions of the turf club, we want the musicians to understand what they're walking into.
We're rustic.
We're rustic.
Yes, rustic. That's the word.
We're rustic, and but then when they see that they're working with Asbury Audio, if they knew them, or once they're here and they get the experience, they say, they are just the most professional, amazing, pour themselves in. I mean, Jay Dermer, but having MJ here, having the whole crew here, everyone just poured,
MJ, they have been awesome, amazing, wonderful, encouraging, gracious. They're just, you can't say enough about the fact that they've been here for us.
And supporting,
And from the beginning, from our very first concert.
Yeah. And every time, and it's, everyone who deals with events knows it's not a 2-hour event. They're here 2, 3 in the afternoon, walk out of here at 9. It's unbelievable. And all the equipment.
And when it gets dark early, they're here working in the dark with little flashlights.
You want to?
We have to talk about Ruben Bray.
Sorry, Ruben, he doesn't like to be talked about.
Because he has been a quiet force in APM. You don't hear him say a lot, but when he says something, it always has value. And it was through his assistance that we were able to really connect with Asbury Amp.
Asbury Audio.
Asbury Audio. And he's always here. You can always depend on Ruben, and he's become such a valuable part of our organization.
He's the DJ that opens up for you.
He's a DJ, and he's a wealth of information about music.
And connecting us with people who were here, and photographers, and just, I don't know what we would have done without Ruben.
Carl Tyler. He's a native of this area.
Okay.
The keyboardist. Carl Tyler got into his truck because he knew a jam set was going to be here in this turf. And he traveled from Georgia, non-stop, to come here and play. And after the set was over,
he went home.
He got back in his truck and traveled all the way back.
And went to work.
And went to work the next day. So we have Carl Tyler here.
All right.
Carl, what brought you to the turf tonight?
Oh man, turf, man. Tribute to Kyle Hicks, man. I'm coming all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, man. So I said, let me get on the road, get up here and do my thing. Help your brother out, man.
From Atlanta you came up?
From Atlanta.
I follow you on Facebook. I didn't know you were that far away.
8:19, it's time to roll back to the ATL.
So you just came up just for that?
Yes, sir. We're about to roll out.
All right, brother.
Peace.
That's insane.
That's to be here, just to be here.
Yeah, we need to interview Carl, because that might be the #1 story. We should have said that this morning too. Because I didn't believe, not that I didn't believe him, but it was a little bit hard to believe. I said, what do you mean because Mr. Kyle Hicks had driven up from Virginia, not that night, but he was driving back. And a lot of people traveled to be part of that night with the Kyle Hicks and Friends, which was old, everyone coming home. But when I heard that I said, what do you mean, Georgia? You just drove from Georgia?
But when you said he was getting ready to go home, you're driving back tonight?
Yeah. That's a long commute for a gig.
That's a long commute.
And Cliff Johnson has been a friend of this effort since we met him since we spoke to him in 2017. And right now he's 90. He'll be 97 Christmas this year. He came last summer. He has not had a chance to play here, but he came in when Vel Johnson was playing last summer, saw Vel playing, got a standing ovation. He says, Jennifer, people need to know what this place means to people, because what's happening here means so much to him. And he said, it's not about me. He said, it's people like me. That's what he said. He said, this history, the first time when we sat down with Cliff in his home, he said, Jennifer, nobody wants to hear an old man talk about this. and he was so wrong. It's the only thing
so
he's wrong
wrong.
about. He's so wrong about it. And so he had some health issues. Now we keep in touch all the time. He says, "What's happening?" He's like our cheerleader from the sideline, so to speak. And
he's our
but he's
supporter.
central to the story. Like his whole story about his memories of Springwood Avenue have been such a touch point. Another thing, the musicians, I was just thinking about this when you were talking before, Yvonne, but without fail, every musician that's come and played, even if they didn't know the history of the Turf Club or whatever it was, then it's kind of like, I don't want to sound cheesy, but part of the family. And after that, if you look at our Instagram, you look at all the musicians that are there, now they all, like Alexander Simone, once he played here, he's like, I'm in, I'm part of this, I'm going to be part of this. And across the board, Jonathan Sims, when's the next thing? What can I do to help? What can I,
Cuff.
And Koof Knotts and Christina Elise. And then they have their whole audience. So they're up in Alaska and Philadelphia talking about the Turf Club,
And so you have plans for the building to get things upgraded and.
Yes,
we have plans. We have
plans. We have a vision for this building to be something special for this community.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a community space.
And it builds on, anyone who's been in here, because last summer in 2021, we focused on musicians that had played here in the heyday, the house band musicians, people that everyone had a connection to the Turf Club. And this year the same, but we also wanted to make sure that we brought in new musicians. And as you well know, Bruce, it's like a ripple effect. Mr. Greg Bowie came in. Greg came in 2021 as well and listened. We interviewed Greg early and then Greg. We were so fortunate that he came and performed, and then he organized the Turf Jam for us the last night of the summer, which was amazing.
And everyone loved it. Had a great time.
And it's kind of that ripple effect of, you got to get so and so. So and so played here, and that's the magic of it, is having all the. It's nothing that you can pick out of a list somewhere. It's people talking to each other. I used to play with so-and-so, that was my old band. So I can't think of the word, but organic. It's organic. It's organic.